ready? Who ready? We ready? Motivation to use only. Mentally feel like Kobe, I'm like Jokic with the rock. You physically couldn't hold me, I don't care if you pushing 40. You can never little bro me. Euro step like Ginobili, from young OG to the OG. From nosebleeds to floor seats. Circle stronger than Cuban links. My gold dance, your gold plated. You verse me, now that's a reach. We ready? Who ready?
Good evening, everyone. Welcome to another edition of the One-on-One Sports Show here on the Black Man Unfiltered Network. I'm Mr. Bennett. My man Coach is in the back waiting for other guys to show up. But good to have you guys with us tonight on this first Wednesday in December of 2025. So again, lots of things happening. End of the college football season. You got the NFL. A lot of playoff and conference matchups are coming up very soon. And so a lot of things that are going on in the world of sports. We're going to talk about that, talk a little NBA as well tonight. Good to have you guys with us. Just make sure as you come in tonight, make sure you hit the like button. Certainly as you come in, certainly helps the algorithm. Also consider dropping a super chat or a cash app to the Black Man Unfiltered Network. Consider subscribing to the Black Man Unfiltered Network. So we appreciate the support here, and anything that you want to give us personally, our cash apps are scrolling at the bottom of the screen. So, certainly good to be with you guys again on this Wednesday. But I think I see Coach in the back. Coach, are you there, sir? And we'll wait for Coach to unmute himself and get in. But yeah, certainly been looking to get into this. Sorry, we also had start show a little bit late, had running behind a little bit. So good to be here. But yeah, like I said, I'll wait for the guys to start coming up. But certainly in the meantime, let's get into this thing a little bit. I could certainly give my initial commentary on what's going on, certainly as we've been starting off week after week. Let's start with the NFL. And let's just see the shakeups and just the tight things are tightening as of late. Certainly what seems to be consistent here is New England. They're still doing their thing at the top of the division, but Denver's right in back of them, 9 straight wins for them. Certainly the AFC South is tight, and of course, this seems like the AFC North. I don't know if the winner of that division is going to be over 500. Certainly, Pittsburgh is really struggling, and I've never heard for a long time the fire Mike Tomlin chants I've heard for the last 6-7 years. It's up to 10 now, where you could actually audibly hear it in the stadium. And so, I think that every year you ask the question, will he be back? Quite frankly, I don't know if he'll be back this year. And then quite frankly, I wouldn't mind if you're saying that a change is going to be needed at it. I'm to the point now where I certainly wouldn't mind if Mike Tomlin goes somewhere else. We'll actually talk about that as well. There's a big rumor going around as to where, if he does leave, where he could go for next year. But shout out to our guy Antoine in the building, certainly representing as always. We also got Elliot B, I4T. Also in the building. Appreciate you being here. And yeah, definitely a disappointment against the Bills. It just, just all the way around, which is bad. But we got the coach in the building tonight, sir. How speaking of coaching, how are you doing? How are those 5th and 6th grade girls? Do you have a voice this week? You've been are they gelling into shape here?
Yeah. What's up, brother Benny?
Yeah, it's sound a little strange. Sound a little strange. You feel like you've been not as bad as in the past, but
we had a game on Monday. We didn't practice. We didn't have another game from, I think it was Tuesday through Thanksgiving. We had a game on Monday. Of course, they let the girls, other team, just push them around. One girl even quit. Okay. But came back. We practiced. We were supposed to have a game yesterday, but we were supposed to practice. We were supposed to have a game yesterday, but they canceled it because of the weather. We practiced today. I let them scrimmage. Of course, they look bad today. Mm-hmm. And we got a game tomorrow away. And when I talk to the girls, when they in a group, and they all still getting nervous. They just don't have that. I don't know. It's something when you play sports, and I'm sure, Dante, you can understand what I'm saying. When you play sports and you look across from that other person, you just want to compete and not let them push you around. My girls let the other teams push them around. You can't coach that. You can't coach that in a player. Hey, get mad at some point and be strong back. So one girl quit, and it's they at the height of that first trial and error of puberty. It's the first step, and they show it all 15 every day.
Wow.
So
I heard that. Dante, how you doing? How you feeling? Missed you last week, but how you doing?
Man, I'm doing good, man. Just doing good. Just end of the year here, got here, and just, man, loving like everything is going on with sports. It's like I will say my only objection is some of the things, the calendar. I know we'll get into that with college football. Is too much. They gotta change it.
Awesome. Definitely, we'll get into that as well. But yeah, let's bring back up the week 13 summary. I kind of started out. So again, it's topsy turvy, certainly in the AFC North, and now the AFC South, which was seemed like it was a runaway a couple weeks ago for the certainly for the Colts, but certainly with the injuries to the quarterback now, very tightening. Houston is certainly making a stand. Their defense is standing up. So you have a very competitive AFC South that certainly, Dante, you can talk about. And like I said, as far as the North, like I said, I've never seen it. It's always competitive, but I've never heard the fire Mike Tomlin chants as audible as you could hear in that game. It was as bad as it got. And I'm to the point now where if he leaves, I'll be disappointed. I don't think I would be sad at this point unless they put together some kind of run. But we saw this last year. They were started out 4-1. They've lost 5 of the last. They're like 2-5 in their last 7 games. We saw this kind of slide last year. You see, have injuries at the quarterback position. And so, there's just a lot of things that they are going to have to overcome if they want to make a playoff run. But it seems like they're going in the backwards direction. Baltimore certainly had to slip up. Dante and Shawnee's favorite player, Lamar Jackson, didn't look too good in that game. But certainly, and I was really happy because my Thanksgiving picks, I went 3-1 in my Thanksgiving picks. The only one that, even with the loss, I was happy because Kansas City lost. So I figured, well, that would certainly help the Steelers, especially when it comes down to wild card seedings. But I didn't. But obviously, the Steelers once again couldn't capitalize on the opportunity that Kansas City and Baltimore gave them. So really, it's kind of going downhill for Steelers, and it wouldn't surprise me at all if Tomlin's gone at the end of the season. Over on the NFC side, again, certainly I'm the biggest shock. The Bears. Shout out to Hank, who hates on Caleb Williams, but his Bears are number 1 seed in the NFC. Big loss by the Rams. Last week. So there's just a lot of certainly tightening races there. The NFC North, the NFC South, and even the West is again very competitive. 3 teams that have a very good chance to win. But the big also takeaway is Dallas. They're in the mix as well. So again, everybody was looking to write those guys off, but don't count them out. They have a very prolific offense, and as long as those guys can stay healthy, they're going to be heard for them. So that's kind of like my big. That's my big, kind of big board summary. We'll, dive into a couple of these games. But, Coach, your thoughts on, I guess, the picks from last week as well as your Thanksgiving picks. What were your thoughts on what we're seeing this week?
Man, I ain't gonna lie. I don't even know who I picked, man. But I'll just speak it. Listen, man, ain't this the type of football y'all want to see? Tight all the way to the end. Pittsburgh is still in it. It's still a lot of football. Now, I will say with the quarterback, his age is showing. Rodgers' age is showing, so they better draft the quarterback first round. If they would have drafted my boy Shador, we wouldn't be having these problems. But anyway, I digress from that. Everything else is tight except New England. They on the roll. Nobody can afford to lose a game at this point. The teams that lose more than 2 games in the AFC, they might not make it. Everybody has to step it up. And but because the NFC West, them top 3 is still tight. The Denver, I can see them in New England fighting for the number 1 seed, but everybody else, it's a must win. The teams that are still in the hunt, it's a must win these next 4 out of 5. Anybody lose 2, they might be watching it from Mr. Bennett's couch.
Absolutely.
The NFC, Chicago is a surprise, but again, you have a great regular season. Playoffs, it's a lot different pressure. So if they can handle that throughout the season, and if they get their first playoff win, I think that'll give them, the confidence. Philadelphia, they got everybody's inside their head. Everybody on that team, you can see how everybody's inside their head. The coach, the head coach, everybody, the quarterback, the receiver, the running back, everybody's inside their head, and they're not just playing as a Super Bowl champion. See, they don't have that Kansas City champion edge because everybody's just, still in their head. But Detroit, Green Bay, Chicago, there's still they play a lot of division games coming up. So those are going to be some good dog fights. LA and San Francisco, they always get the weakest schedule in the league, give them the best. But again, they have to win in the cold. And if Sam Darnold can play consistent, I can see them being in the AFC championship. Tampa Bay, who knows? But Carolina might be the underdog that might sneak up on somebody. So it's going to be it's a lot of 5 games left?
Yeah.
So it's a lot of good football, man. Everybody that want to make the playoffs must go 4-1 or 5-0 on both sides. Anybody lose more than 2, they will be turning their locker, getting their little pink slip. So.
I heard that. Dante, your thoughts, just your big picture view so far. What are you seeing? What are you liking?
Man, I'll say this, and I know it might be unpopular to say. We gotta look at the Broncos, and we gotta look at them one of those teams where it's just like it's not that you're winning, but it's one of those days where it's like I think that's the team that could be vulnerable. I don't know. They'll depending on their matchup in the playoffs, just because I don't know how much you can trust the quarterback in the offense, but that defense is lights out. So they're going to have a chance. It's going to be close, but I do think there's an opportunity there. Hats off to New England. They're clearly showing, hey, like we're the class with a big dog in this conference, and probably between Ben Johnson and Mike Vrabel for Coach of the Year, because I thought maybe they could be frisky and get into the playoffs because their offense isn't great, but they're doing enough with a really good defense and doing enough offensively to be at the top seed. And Drake May is definitely going to get heavy MVP consideration. But really, what I'm here for is to talk about the NFC East and just talk about, hey man, I was called a madman. About some of my critiques of Mr. Hurts over there, and that offense was a little problem, and now it's coming. And I would say that although I don't like how A.J. Brown has gone about it, he had a point of knowing you just won a championship. Our offense can't look like this when we play against better teams and later in the season. And, and then just defensively, have y'all seen, did they have an APB out for Jalen Carter and with the Big Davis in there for the Eagles? I don't know how you gave up 231 yards rushing inside, 231 in between the tackles. That's insane. I don't know what's going on in Philadelphia, but I am enjoying it. Hopefully they can continue to flutter. And I would say got to give some props to the Bears though. For Ben Johnson coming in and having that rough start. I know he got it together with that win against the Cowboys, and they just been kind of on a roll since then. So you got to give them some respect. But like you said, Coach Bird, they're going to test how good they can be. The schedule for them gets tough. The schedule for the NFC West, it gets tough, and these teams are going to start playing each other. And I would say that I got to give props to Carolina. I did not see Carolina beating the Rams, especially off of coming from the West Coast, flying back east on a short week and handling the team like a Rams. And it got, what was it, over 100? I can't remember how many pass attempts it was for Matt Stafford, no interceptions, and they picked him off twice. And I think a strip sack. So it's just like they're showing that their defense with some players out, in the secondary, and that guy stepped up. So I got to give major props to the Panthers.
Awesome. Shawnee?
Well, I was looking at the comments when I saw Lori's question, do I believe the Lions make it to the playoff? I know currently that tie game that the Cowboys have kind of messes up stuff at like eye level. I believe technically Detroit is still above Dallas, but they play head to head. And then Detroit also has, I was just looking at their schedule, especially for a team that's reeling. We don't even know if St. Brown will be available for the Cowboys game. He cleared the current injury report, so that may be a sign he's coming back on the field. But right now they got the Cowboys in tomorrow. Then they also have the Rams the very next week, and they finish it off with the Bears. So they have a hell of they can afford a loss, and they play against three teams that they can most likely lose to. So and you look at the Cowboys schedule, the Cowboys on the opposite side. Like you can't take any team in the NFL lightly, of course. You saw what happened when the Cowboys did that with the Cardinals. But they have the Lions, and I think the only plus 500 team left on their schedule is the Chargers. So, I don't know. If you ask about the Lions making the playoffs, it don't look like it right now based on because those are two teams. They may be neck and neck with the Cowboys, but I think it's fairly universal right now that the Rams and the Bears are better, even though the Lions beat the Bears the first time they played. But I think the way this Bears is playing, I think the Lions also suffer some injuries on defense. Yeah, it's gonna be a task for them. But going to the standings though, yeah, I look on the AFC side. New England is still New England. I think they're the most consistent team in the NFL in total. I mean, both sides of the ball. They show up on all three phases: offense, defense, and special teams. You saw the kick return when they had this past Monday. Then you have the Bills. The Bills is just a team that's, pretty much with Josh Allen. Yeah, they may not be leading or may not even win the AFC East, but with Josh Allen, he's a quarterback. You just wait till the postseason. He's basically now reached the point of his career. We're just going to judge you when the postseason get here. So as long as they get their foot in the door, when the postseason happens, it's 0-0. They can go to New England. It can be cold, but they used to playing in the cold weather too. So then you have Baltimore. Well, I was watching Lamar Jackson does not look. He looked 3 steps slower, and that's the thing I was worried about with his hamstring. I'm like, okay, you put him in, but that hamstring, especially for a quarterback with him, his legs are so elite. I'm seeing him getting sacks in the pocket. Well, normally, as soon as it breaks down like that, he's gone. But he can't get away from. He just can't get away. And that made me think, okay, maybe his hamstrings is too tight, so he may need to take him out of there. Because if it gets worse, you probably be looking at a bigger hole.
Johnny, I beg to differ.
What's
it ain't Lamar Jackson's hamstring.
And what is it? What you got?
He's not reading the defense. Yeah, he's not reading the defense. He's not even trying to even see a receiver open because he has enough speed, enough agility to sort of just move out the way, but he's just standing there.
And that's the thing.
That's not his hamstring. I'm telling you, he's just not on the ball. I'm telling you,
because
he's just not on the ball.
Watching him in games past,
he don't have no velocity on it. It's all off. It's not even in the area of the
his accuracy. He just looks off. He looks off. It's just normally.
But I think that's a lot of things, though. Because, like you said, what do you always say, Coach Bird? What do you say, Shawnee? Run the ball. They're not getting the ball. Like I was listening to the broadcast of that game, and I was listening to them say, Derrick Henry got like 10 carries. And I was just like,
and the thing is, he had a big run for a touchdown, like a 32-yard run for a touchdown early in the game. Yeah, at first half. So they didn't keep feeding him. And what you also saw, I thought, with Baltimore, and this has been consistent throughout. I mean, I think that as much flack as Tomlin gets, which is at this point I think is well deserved. I think Baltimore too many times in big moments have been undisciplined.
Yes.
And I don't know if that's the coaching staff, whatever, but you saw it. Zay Flowers, you saw again in this game. The penalties, the turnovers, late being careless with the ball. It's just like they sometimes at the biggest spots they find ways to lose, whether it be Lamar not playing well, or offensively they're not doing what they're supposed to do, or Derrick Henry has a turnover at the wrong time. So it just seems like just overall, like I think the whole team that there's just certain things that are missing across the board. And in the big moment, and obviously, that defense couldn't stop. You got Joe Burrow coming back from injury, and he looked like Pro Bowl Joe Burrow, like as if nothing dropped off. So the defense isn't as good as we're used to seeing in the past when you had those, when they were elite defense. So you're not seeing that either.
You have to remember the team. Remember, this is the Ravens. They, for the pretty much since Lamar Jackson been there, they've owned the AFC North. Now they find themselves in a position when, especially when Lamar missed the 3 games, they was out of it. They was on a path of being out of it. But since the teams above them didn't really take care of business like they were supposed to, they find themselves back in it. And they was trying to make a run, and then next thing you know, they lose against a team who many looked at even lower than them was the Bengals. So, are they front runners? They could be, but they, usually they just handled business. You always looked up straight to the playoffs when it came to the Ravens. Everybody, many people, picking them to be somewhere in the Super Bowl picture or in the championship picture. Because everybody just give the benefit of the doubt with Lamar Jackson that one year it's just going to click for him and that team. But now they had themselves against the wall, and they was trying to come out. They was fighting their way back, but then just lose it. And the way that game went, you hear it all the time, man. You hear about the Bengals defense, and I think that was Joe Burrow's first game back.
Yeah, and he looked like he didn't miss a beat. You know what I mean?
But they played right into Cincinnati's hands. They didn't run the ball. You got a running back that can get 40, 45 yards in the first quarter, scoring touchdowns. Man, you got to run the ball. Lamar Jackson's clearly ailing, right? Why would you continuously try to drop him back and throw those little dumb dropbacks he do, knowing that he can't get out of there? Run the ball, set the play action up. That's simple football. You playing against a defense that was already down.
They lost 2 touchdowns off of undisciplined plays.
You're right.
Pass interference, offensive pass interference call on Flowers. The ball getting stripped.
That's because they're going out to the
barely
club.
Gets to the line. So that's 2 TDs right there. Like I said, I think they got problems across the board that again. And I'm not complaining. Keep having problems, okay?
But they still lead the division, so that lets you know that everybody else is doing the same dumb stuff.
But what I will say is
statistically tied. I think the Ravens they still have the tiebreaker stuff there. So yeah, technically they are leading the division.
I think you got to look at it too. One thing I mentioned earlier, when it looked like it was kind of like before they made a resurgence, it looked like it might be time to move on from Harbaugh. When you have a team, it's one thing to have the talented team, and I'll give the perfect example. I won't use my team. I'll use Seattle. The old Seahawks with Pete Carroll, with all their talent, they would always lead the league in penalties. But you were so talented, you could overcome it. And the Ravens has kind of followed suit because a lot of their defensive culture and their history is, hey, they can get it back. They got this great defense. They can grab a little bit on the outside. They kind of get away with things. Well, when the talent isn't there, like they're missing out one of the interior guys, Justin Madubuike. It's hurting their defense a lot. The corners, they're kind of breaking them in and getting things going, and things just aren't meshing when those penalties and things happen. But it's a culture of you doing that. Who built that culture to let them do that? So, and I do see Ravens fans kind of looking at it and thinking like, hey, it's time to move on. And just like you mentioned about Tomlin, it may be time for those teams, not that they're bad coaches, that message may have grown stale.
Yeah,
and
I think so.
What you're doing it your way, it may be time for both of them to move on.
Yeah,
because that's the only thing else that can change. Because next year, maybe you get rid of Henry and go with a younger back. Maybe you go with some other defenders in the draft to build your defense back, or get your offensive line, improved. I heard Raven fans complain about that. But other than
But
that, other than you can change the coach, you're not changing $100 million quarterback.
it just comes down to drafting real quick. What was I going to say? Now, Mr. Bennett, the Steelers picked somebody up. Who did they pick up?
Oh, I'll get to Adam Thielen. I'll get to that
okay,
in the slides coming up. So
Okay.
let's dive in a little bit. So again, as much as I hate to talk about it, as you saw the banner slide tonight. Well, first of all, just to kind of get an idea of the seeding. So again, the clearly the Patriots and the Bears have the number one seeds right now. You got the playoff matchups. If it was to start today, excellent. I mean, San Francisco and LA, that would be great. A lot of the playoff matchups are looking very good right now. But certainly the Bears and the Patriots, they have destiny in their own hands when it comes to that. But again, Denver is right there. But let's get into your Cowboys here. Just as a side note, they have beaten the Super Bowl participants from last year. Okay, so again, that's quite a feat. Again, we were writing these guys off a couple weeks ago, but the offense, again, when it's clicking, they're kind of hard to beat. So, and they're only a game and a half back from the Eagles. So, honest assessment. I know we got the ultimate Cowboys cheerleaders on the show tonight. But I'm just saying, what chance do you give? Can if the Eagles continue to have their offensive woes, and even then, it's interesting, back-to-back weeks with A.J. Brown getting over 100 yards receiving, and they're still not playing well. So I don't know if that was necessarily the issue. Saquon isn't getting off on the no diddy. That he's not running the ball like he needs to. So can the Cowboys, do they have a legit shot of taking the East? I hate to say it, but they are a live dog, and just seeing them offense, I mean, the biggest mistake and success is George Pickens. Steelers never should have let him go. Him and Metcalf would have been an awesome pair, even with an age Aaron Rodgers, but he seems like a glove fit in Dallas. And they're making things happen. So I'll start with Shawnee on this one. What is your prospects? Do you think that they have a legitimate shot, and are you picking them to win the East? Are you willing to man up right now and pick the Cowboys to win the NFC right now?
Right now, because of the current seasons, would you say they a game and a half?
Game and a half out. So if you look at the go back and look at the standings again.
Yeah.
Again, it's at 8-4, 6-5-1. Yeah, it's about a game and a half. So
I think they have a chance to win the division, mainly because Philly should win the division. I say that, but they such a powder keg right now, man. They just have too much going on. I mean, I still believe right now, currently, Philly is the more talented team because for both sides of the ball, but they just have too much going on. And right now, this reminded me of the season 2 seasons ago. And starting to see, I guess last year was a fluke with them because Saquon went off. But remember, two years ago, they started off, 10-1? And then lost like the last 5 games of the season. Then they got embarrassed by Tampa Bay in the playoffs. This is starting to remind me of that. So the Cowboys, they're just going to take advantage of it because the Cowboys right now, I always said I'd rather have my team play their best football towards the end of the year than the beginning. So what the Cowboys are showing me that they have addressed somewhat as much as they can, and as far as personnel on the field and just their strategy and whatnot, because their defense was getting blown up early in the season, and then the big move for Quentin Williams and Logan Wilson, and then also Overshawn coming back off the injury. It really improved. I still think they need some improvement in their secondary, but because their front is finally getting some consistent pressure, it's not like all-time great pressure, but they're noticeable now. In the beginning, hell, they might as well just quarterback say hi, it was like 7-on-7. But now they are actually getting pressure. They were getting pressure on Mahomes, and I believe the game with the Chiefs was as close as it was because Mahomes was Mahomes. Mahomes is still, I believe, the best scrambling quarterback in the NFL. I mean, he had that one, 40-plus yard pass where he was able to, he almost got tripped up. And still, so But other than that, even one of the touchdowns he had, you know, it was off of scrambling because the play broke down. So that's just Mahomes being Mahomes. That's why he's one of the greatest quarterbacks of all time. But the defense is still getting home back there. He's just making plays. And so, you know, now they have the Lions coming up, and I heard the Lions, their offensive line is porous right now. Now you
Banged
got
up.
this, yeah. No, their offensive line. I'm thinking of the Texans as well because they got the Chiefs' offensive line right now is kind of banged
Well,
up.
just face it. Just just say it with your chest, right?
Well, do I have them going to the East?
Houston's going to win the AFC South. Dallas going to win the East.
Oh, yeah.
You want a Houston Dallas Super Bowl? Just say it. Just say
Nah,
it.
because they play each
Say
other
it
every
now.
quarter. I would not mind because that'd be the
Come on, man.
ultimate.
Just say you want it, man.
That'd be the
Come on,
ultimate
John.
pinnacle.
Yes.
Cause that,
I would not mind. I would not mind.
Of course, I would like that because that means everybody else is at home watching us. You know, but they play each other once every 4 years, and I just basically just sit there and watch. I usually go for the team who has the better season, so it can kind of propel their season forward. But hell, if they both get to the playoffs, then I'm a happy man. I'm sitting
So
there.
you gonna have your jersey with the Texans on the front and Cowboys on the back?
Nah, I don't be going that far.
Shawnee, I got
hats.
If we get a Texans Cowboys Super Bowl, I don't want to hear from none of y'all. Open up your piggy banks. You and Dante. You guys are going to that Super Bowl. I don't care if that ticket's $10,000. You guys are going. I don't want to hear nothing from you if that doesn't happen.
We gotta go. We gotta make it happen. We gotta make it happen.
Want to GoFundMe campaign? You guys are
gotta make it happen.
But
I'm
more. The Texans defense is the truth. It's just that offense.
Right. So you're going to have the Houston defense against the Dallas offense. I mean,
now if that happens, that would be a show. That will be a show.
That would be a show.
But going back to this one, yeah, I think Dallas can come back and win this division mainly because of the turmoil that's going on with the Eagles.
You're right. And it ain't happening. It ain't happening, man. He can wake up tomorrow.
So I was trying to see the statement. Was that Antoine? Was that you that said we're playing with a 12th man with Marshawn Nealon? If that was you that said that, you are absolutely right, and that is a excellent point that you made because, like, it was emotional against the Raiders, and then the first home game it was still emotional, but it feels like he is still with them. You still see it mentioned. You see some players around the league, so I'm glad they're keeping his name alive and. I know they got to go for me for his family, but like that, definitely the defense is bonded and playing a certain way behind that. So that's helping. I would say that getting Quentin Williams is helping the rotation, and they're starting to play guys that are more productive more. They did rotate more the last game because obviously you played on the short week. But I'm going to be completely honest. When we made Quentin Williams, I said it on the show. I don't think we could make the playoffs. I didn't think it was going to happen because I didn't think this pivotal 3-game stretch where they have a chance of sweeping, I did not think they were good enough to sweep it at that time. But for you, once they came back from Philly against Philly, which is always great, and then they beat the Chiefs, and I felt like, hey, that solidified it. You beat the 2 Super Bowl participants from the previous season. I do think they're going to come back and win, especially once I saw the Bears beat the Eagles. Now the Eagles only played the Chargers and the Bills are the only teams that are playoff eligible as of right now that could in contention, and the rest of the schedule I think they play Washington twice. I would love for Jaden Daniels to come back healthy like Joe Burrow came back and spoil something for Philly to give them some momentum going into next year. But I do think they're going to win the division. I think it's simply off of the momentum that they're coming with, and they're getting some breaks. Shawnee mentioned it. I'll be upfront with it. Penei Sewell's not playing at his all-pro level. The offensive line, the guard that came in because the old guard moved to center because of the retirement of last now I think it was. Yeah, and then so what ended up happening is their line is not playing as good as it is. The left tackle Decker, he's not what he used to be. He's getting long in the tooth. He's in the 2016 draft, so they're coming off, and then they're doing just like the Cowboys for you. When you get to that third game, I do think that they do them a big disservice when you get the Thanksgiving teams and you put them on that next game. But you want to get their Thursday game out the way. When you play those 3 games in that short span, it gets to you, and now their injuries are catching up. I know St. Brown, if he does play, he will be hobbled. So they have a lot against them, but they still are going to come out and play that game. I would say I'm definitely picking the Cowboys to win this one for the simple fact is
I am
the
too.
people
Yeah.
that were on the staff that remembered how the Lions embarrassed us. They lost us in 23 about the controversial. He didn't report as eligible. They laid it on so thick in that game. And I find it funny that now when you really need this win and all that trickery and shit that you did, it's coming back. And my thing is, I want them to put it on. If it's late, I want Dak still throwing the Lamb and throwing the Pickens. And, they got small corners. Terry on Arnold, their corner is out. This all-pro safety, Kerry Joseph, he's out. So I think they need to go after him and handle business because I don't think they can handle the receiving core that we have. And I think after this game, especially with a potentially compromised Justin Herbert, who did break his hand, he may or may not play the rest of this, in the next few games. I think the Cowboys have to take advantage of that. And then obviously getting this win and then the 10 days of rest, I think they're going to go out and they're going to win out the rest of the games. I think they could win the division. I think they're going to win the division, but if they don't, I think the NFC North and the NFC West are going to cannibalize each other, and they'll be able to slip in and get a spot.
Gotcha. Shout out to Alexis from Texas, who was actually at the game. She's a big Kansas City fan, so sorry that KC couldn't pull it off. But hope you enjoyed the experience at the stadium.
Alexis, I love you. I hope you enjoyed the statements. I'm not sorry. I love it when opposing teams come to the stadium and they catch an L. I love it that you got your tickets, you had a great time, but you went home with an L. Hope you had a Cowboy Rita. But hey, I gotta put it in your face.
No, she got some beautiful.
I gotta say it with my chest. But I love the fact that you went and supported your team because you always support them. And you love the Chiefs, and you talk some good ball. So I appreciate you. I appreciate you. I had to joke with you though.
Now you see, black man's trolling. Dak's the Hall of Fame quarterback. They're winning the Super Bowls. Shout out to BMU.
Shout
out to BMU.
He's on the troll.
Listen, hold on,
the
man.
troll.
Hold on. Stop. Listen, I'll say this with the Dallas Cowboys, right?
It is. It's decimated by injury.
It's unfortunate about the player, but something like that will rally a team, right? Because at first Dallas looked out of whack. They didn't have a direction. Since that incident, they've been going in the same direction, and the players are playing. They're looking like one unit now. And as long as they have a balanced attack with a good running back, and the receivers, CD's coming back off an injury, Pickens, he's an all-pro, and the fact that Pittsburgh wouldn't give him that niche. But something like this is probably what Dallas needed. Dallas, you know what I'm saying? They're still relevant, but they still have to hope Philly lose a game because Philadelphia has not played their best football. And in these next couple of weeks, they could get on a roll and Saquon can rush for 700-800 yards in these next 5 games. So it's still wide open. Nothing is solidified. You're going to have to win at least 4 of these next 5 to really be considered a contender because you may not even make the playoffs with a 10-7 record might not get you in this year. So it's going to be interesting. Kansas City, Philadelphia, once they get out of their head, they'll start clicking because they still got one of the better teams.
Now, who said that to keep Philly out of mouth? Now, I'm gonna keep talking about Philly being down. I'm gonna put it in your face. You were talking. You was probably one of the ones talking big when Philly was up 21-0 and choked that dang game away. So I'm never gonna be quiet about that. I got all the smoke in the world for Philly, so you can put as many comments as you want. I got all the smoke. I'm ready. I'm talking big. I'm coming in. No more. What Ray J say in that rant? I'm tired of being humble. I'm coming at you, Philly fans. I'm coming at you.
Yeah, Cowboy fans.
So you guys think
I'm coming at you.
I think I'm tough on the Ravens. Look, see when that Cowboy Danger gets up against the Eagles, man, then all the stuff comes out. So I'm not the only one.
Yeah. I say this real quick. Yeah, hold on, y'all go ahead.
Who was that put the record that put Dak's playoff record in there? I'm not running from that. My thing is, I'm not the super homer fan that says this and that. I won't even get into the circumstances of the losses. I'll just say he has to do when it comes. I put him and Lamar Jackson in this. I'm sorry. I put Lamar Jackson, Josh Allen, Dak Prescott in the same boat. And the 2 of those guys have MVP. So their expectations should be a level higher. But Dak is the quarterback of the Cowboys, highest paid, all that. All 3 of those guys have to play their best football when it comes to when the calendar turns to January. And until they do, then they're not going to get as much as the respect and accolades as some of other quarterbacks like a Jalen Hurts, who has played his best football when it comes to January at times. So I was like, I will give him that all the credit in the world for that, but he has to do that better. Well, the only thing is, can Philadelphia get back to the playoffs with the way that they're playing? And that's the question mark.
Maybe.
We got a very live and active chat tonight. We got so many guys in this. Joe Wallace 2225 in the house again. Fly equals fly.
Yeah, man.
A nice little banter going on. We appreciate it. Just make sure as you guys come in tonight, we got over 50 viewers watching this tonight. So again, we really appreciate the love you guys are showing us tonight. Make sure you hit the like button as you come in. Consider subscribing to the Black Men Unfiltered Network. Drop a Cash App, a super chat, either to the network or you see our personal Cash App scrolling at the bottom of the screen. We really appreciate you guys being here tonight and just keeping this very active and live chat here this evening. So if I just have it on the record, so Dante, you're putting on record right now, Cowboys winning the East.
Winning the East. I think they win the East.
Man, that's what we like to hear, man. None of this runaway, none of this. You're not giving yourself an out here, So we appreciate that. But we got fans, we got Rams fans in here, 49ers fans in here. So again, this is going to be a very fun. This is why, to a large extent, I enjoy the NFL even more so than college, because again, especially when you have the scenario where there's so many teams competing, have a legit chance to win on any given Sunday. I know the college game is trying to kind of get there with the 12 teams and whatnot, but certainly this is a very exciting season of football to be in. I only want to highlight one more game, and that's obviously clearly with Denver. Again, Denver's winning ugly, but they're winning.
Ugly.
I don't know if New England. I know we beat them this past year. I don't know if they are with the new head coach. I mean, obviously we got a Super Bowl winning coach on that side, and he's just got these guys. Doesn't matter how far they're behind, they come back and put it in. Denver to me just seems like they're just one of those teams of destiny this year. I don't know if it is them in New England. Let's say if they get to the AFC Championship game or whatever. I don't know if New England can pull it out. But what do you guys think of Denver? Do they have a legit shot to go to the Super Bowl? Can they overcome the Patriots? And what's your thought overall? But this team here, it just seems like they're on something right here. Ugly as they will, but they're winning. They're getting the W's nonetheless.
They playing for their coach. They're playing for their coach. Sean Payton, you know what I'm saying? I ain't gonna say I necessarily like him or dislike him as a coach, but he has a way of getting his players to play for him. And they're playing ugly, close games and they're winning. It says a lot. A lot of teams crumble. They're playing those and they look ugly. They're not fancy win. They come from behind wins. And when you gain that experience with a young team, it's unparable once the playoffs can hit. Now granted, again, playoffs is a different type of pressure because we're looking at all first and second, mostly second year quarterbacks really starting to lead the division as being on their teams when the years before they wasn't really that good. So those teams are sort of flip-flop with young quarterbacks. So it's still early, man. I think they go to at least a division round. I ain't gonna say they're gonna win the AFC, but division round playoff, which is a good accomplishment for their team being so young. So,
do you guys think if it's not Denver or the Patriots, who do you think has a legit chance of getting out of the AFC? Would you put it on Houston with their defense? Would you put it on well, actually, that's the only Bills. They're too up and down for me. I know they, certainly they look pretty good. I mean, my team's falling apart. But I don't see the Ravens being an impact. So really, I mean, if it's not those two, who do you like? Who's your sleeper? I guess coming out of the North. I mean, out of the AFC.
It could be the Bills. So.
I don't trust the Bills.
When it comes to the plus, I believe the Broncos and the Patriots are just feel good stories in the regular season.
Yeah.
When it comes to playoffs, generally, the team with the better quarterback generally is the one that's going to win. And I believe, for the most part, it was always about Lamar, Mahomes, and Joe Burrow, and then Josh Allen. well, really only one of the four really has a chance of really making the playoff. Mahomes still has a chance, but it's slim. And we already finished talking about the Ravens and the Bengals. Bengals basically out of it. I think they're technically still in. Everybody got to go on a losing streak for them to get in. But the Bills are the only one that has a legit playoff squad. And, you know, the regular season has all of its challenges, especially since they added one more game. You look at how the Broncos won some games. You know, yeah, they squeezed some out. Some of the teams they had didn't have good quarterback play. But when you go against a team, especially if they happen to play against the Bills, Josh Allen is a vet. He is experienced in the big games. One thing we pretty much know in the playoffs, Josh Allen normally delivers. It's his team that another play will cost them the victory. But so I'm gonna give the Bills, the hands up per se. I guess if you're talking about between the Patriots and the Broncos. Now the Pats will be playing the Bills this week, so you can kind of get a taste, see how it's going to be. It's hard to beat a team twice, so it's Bills have a good chance of being competitive in that game. But I just think the Broncos and the Patriots right now just feel good regular season stories, because Texans, they offense is too inconsistent. If the Texans offense what it was in Stroud's rookie season compared to this defense, I say the Texans probably look like the best team in the NFL with that defense, but that offense is just the complete opposite, and we just don't know how they're going to show up. I mean, they basically hung in there with every team they played this year, including the Broncos. And I specifically remember that when they got in the red zone, Stroud didn't come up with a touchdown, and that cost them that game. And they defense can keep them up to par, because it's going to be a free fall this postseason, because the big three have a strong chance of not making this playoff race. So it's going to be a weird playoff. This is just AFC. I'm talking about the NFC. Just the AFC. It could be just a unique playoff, because the three of the elite quarterbacks that many agree are in this conference will not be involved. So now that's why we got QBs who on their second season potentially making it to the AFC title game and all of this. So it's you just throwing something up in the air. But I'm still gonna give Josh Allen the leg up because of his experience and that he delivers in the playoffs. So it's a different monster in the playoffs. So it remains to be seen.
I heard that. One more NFL story just to kind of keep it going. Again, Steelers. This has been a big rumor I've been hearing all week. I mean, because obviously the Giants, they're having a woeful season, and again, the cries. Like I said, I never heard the boos or the fire Mike Tomlin from the fans like audibly here in the stadium. So again, I do think that his message is getting watered down. If they don't make the playoffs, or if they have a losing season, his big claim to fame is he's never had a losing season as in 17 seasons. But I just think that this more than any other year, and like I said, I'm to the point now where I wouldn't mind it, because I'm for the past 6-7 years I'm getting sick and tired of hearing it. So a fresh start or whatever, I wouldn't mind. But they're saying if they're going to let him go, he should go to the Giants. You got certainly a nice rookie quarterback, and but my only thing with that is that Tomlin is not a quarterback guru. Ben Roethlisberger, that was Bill Cowher's draft. So I don't know. He doesn't have a good track record of developing QBs. He's a good defensive mind, but I don't know if that's going to be a thing. And they did sign Adam Thielen today because, again, offensively, their wide receivers. I mean, George Pickens has more yards, receiving yards and catches than the entire Steelers wide receiving core combined. And so, so Adam Thielen, 34 years old, he might be past his prime, but he's a big body target or whatever. And I guess they're trying to focus more. They also let go of Darius Slay, former Eagle from last year. They let him go, so I guess they're trying to beef up their offense. But again, every week is something else. Sometimes the offense plays well and the defense is bad. The defense, 2 out of the last 3 games, have given it up. So I don't know if this signing is necessarily going to be a thing. But, what do you think of the prospect of Tomlin? One, do you think this is going to be his last year? And if so, do you think the Giants will be a good fit for him? And, and I really haven't pondered this yet because, again, I'm kind of still in the season. If there was going to be a replacement coach in Pittsburgh, who would you think that would be? So we'll start with Shawnee, and we'll go up to coach.
Replacement, honestly, I wouldn't have an idea. I think it's just going to be an up-and-coming coordinator, in particular, offensive coordinator. Because, like you mentioned, they need somebody who can just develop the quarterbacks. That has been, unfortunately, kind of the main thing that's been missing in this Tomlin era in Pittsburgh is just developing a quarterback. Ever since Roethlisberger left, their quarterback has just been subpar. And I remember I definitely didn't understand in this past draft when everybody knew that the quarterback position was a desperate need for them, but they wanted to pad. They had an opportunity to get the higher named quarterbacks in the draft, and they could have still signed Rodgers and just let the young QB be in the wings. Hey, Rodgers, you a bridge quarterback until we got, a young QB get some experience, and then they could have moved forward. But now they put themselves in no man land. Rodgers thing, it's just, I don't know if they're thinking about bringing him back next year because they don't have a choice.
Well, no, I mean they clearly thought this was going to be a rental. So and that's the thing with Steelers fans. He was going to be a bridge quarterback. They were going to stack. They got all these compensatory draft picks for next year. They were going to move up in the draft and get there were like 6 prospects that everybody had their eye on for next year's draft. They were going to get Aaron Rodgers was not supposed to be necessarily a solution per se. And even Will Howard, again, even though he's a national championship winner, no one really put a lot of faith in him as well. So, again, it's weird. Like, everybody goes in thinking this is a transitional year, but then when they play like a transitional team, then everyone's like, fire Mike Tomlin. But, again, I think that the fan base is getting fed up with the mediocrity, as they call it, even though you got teams that are constantly in the cellar. Steelers are always relevant, at least in the regular season. But you're at this point, so I just think that just to again, a fresh start again, because now you're talking about comparing him to Marvin Lewis. Marvin Lewis had the Bengals in the playoffs almost every year, and still couldn't win a playoff game or what have you. And eventually, his time came up. I think certainly, like I said, I wouldn't mind a change at this point, and I don't think he's going to be on the bench too long. And I think certainly the Giants, if they decide to go for him again, and as Antoine said, it would be the first, hard to believe, but the first black coach in their history if he were to go there. But Dante, your thoughts on the Steelers situation and the prospects of him going to the Giants, because he'll be going to your division. So what's your thoughts on both of those prospects?
As the Cowboys fans, hell no. I want my 2 free wins from the Giants every year. And Mike Tomlin will put a stop to that. Because outside of that, obviously, he's a guy that's a stabilizer. And what he has done is, it's funny. It's something interesting. It's not the exact same because he's not Mike Tomlin, not a Hall of Fame level player. But I told my friend that he's a big fan of Derek Carr. I say he's a scoring Raiders fan. And he says that, oh, man, look at the Saints now. They're doing so bad. And I told him, hey, man, he is holding the level of play up by Derek Carr being there, by having them win enough games, not to make the playoffs, but also not to have a good pick. So you rip that Band-Aid off, and then they fall to the bottom. Mike Tomlin, with all the mess in Pittsburgh, he has stabilized them and held them up for so long. If they remove him, especially with no quarterback, then even if you don't get him this year and they were to let him go, they're going to get that pick next year because you're going to get a new coach into a level like the Steelers. The pressure that the fans and the media is going to expect, and that's a tough job. That's a tough job to have, and so they would miss him like so bad. They would miss him like they missed Pickens. And I think that sometimes be careful what you wish for. but I would say don't force him out. But if it could be a deal where it's like, hey, they depart ways and let him go, or if you do one of those where you do a trade, but it may be time for him to go, as I said earlier in the show, but he would stabilize them. And my thing is, that's almost his MO, Mr. Bennett. If you let him go to a team that already has a quarterback, because the first thing he's gonna do is like all that running around, you're gonna sit your ass down, you're gonna stay in his pocket, you're gonna slide, you're gonna get out of bounds sooner. He's gonna coach him to be like, hey, the offense is your thing over there, but this is my team. He can get an OC. He's gotten the Ken Wisenhunts of the world. He's gotten different guys, and that's what the thing is that he had to stay in power. Find the offensive mind, get through your Rolodex of coaches, find the guys, and then you get the defense. Because it would be scary with Abdul Carter. I forgot it. I'm forgetting all the guys that they had. The other edge rusher they had, Brian Burns, Big Dexter in the middle, and then he's going to keep adding to that defense and make it into his mold. And that's going to be lights out on defense. You got a tough, hard-nosed running back, and you got Jackson Dart. You already have a talented young receiver and Neighbors, and then they have a high-level pick. And I've seen mock drafts that they're going to, think about possibly, and you can't take it much of hill of beans at right now, Cardell Tate from Ohio State. So you have two weapons there. Like him, that would be a grand slam move as a hire.
Right.
I hope it doesn't happen. I hope the Steelers stay home. But shout out to Adam Thielen for still letting it, still keeping his career going to a team that's competitive and fighting, coming from a team that is competitive and fighting. So I know, it just wasn't used, and so I feel good for him. He continued his career. Obviously, it looks like this is the end for him. But, the Steelers are at a crossroads. And don't y'all play the Steelers? Don't y'all play the Ravens this week?
Yeah, we got two. Yeah, we got two. We play both of our games towards the end of the season. We got two out of the next three against the Ravens. So again, I mean, the division's on the line, and obviously winning cures almost everything.
Everything.
But again, we saw the same slide last year, and I think people get tired of it. He comes to the press conference, you know what he's going to say. Win or lose, he's just almost like an automaton at this point. And without in the Pittsburgh press, like nobody really goes after him, really challenges, like hold him accountable. In Pittsburgh, I watch every press conference, and guys are almost afraid to ask him questions. If this was New York, and that's another reason why I don't know if it would be a good fit in New York, because again, the New York press, they don't play. They will come at you, and I don't know if he's ready for the heat that he'll get, but he's kind of they kind of have kid gloves in Pittsburgh. They'll talk about him outside in their columns and everything, but in the press conferences, it's pretty much kid gloves over there. But Coach, your thoughts on Tomlin, and I know how you feel about him personally and everything, but again, do you think this is his last season in Pittsburgh? And what's your thoughts on him going to the Giants? As someone in the chat said, that maybe even the Raiders would be a good spot for him. And I can certainly see him in the Raider black and silver. But your thoughts on if Tomlin does go, if it's not the Giants, what would be a good fit for Mike to land?
First of all, y'all need to stop disrespecting Mike Tomlin. Let's be real about that. Bill Cowher was a defensive coach. And Ben Roethlisberger, I don't know if y'all watched him in college at Miami of Ohio. He was the man. Ben Roethlisberger, he proved that he could play in the NFL early in his college career. He was always very accurate and strong with the ball. And going to Pittsburgh, again, they gave him the reins. They had a young quarterback. Pittsburgh just hasn't had they drafted a couple of little scrub quarterbacks young, but they didn't pan out.
Yeah, they've only had really two good quarterbacks in 50 years, right? Terry Bradshaw and Ben Roethlisberger. I mean, that's
and that's it. And Tomlin, he's a defensive coach too, but his core, I think to me, I would just get a young coordinator and draft a quarterback. Mm-hmm. They could have had what they needed this year. However, Pittsburgh, despite how they look, rag and tag and all, is still in contention to win the division. Despite that, that says a lot about your coach holding the team together. A lot of teams fall straight apart. They'll be down in the gut, and so it's just part of the game. You know what I'm saying? Don't go to the Giants. Don't do that. Stay right where you are. I believe Pittsburgh to give him the respect and let him retire. He'll retire first before he goes somewhere. Thielen, I think he's a good addition. I think he's a good addition to what they need. They need a spark somewhere because everybody looks confused. And again, Rodgers, his age is shown this year. And they just need a young quarterback. They should go get Shedeur Sanders, man. He ain't gonna need all that. He ain't gonna need all that. He gonna be ready to play. Draft. I'll say this and I shut up. They need to get younger on defense, get younger, and get younger on the offensive line, and draft receivers.
They got offensive line is very young. They're one of the youngest in the NFL right now. And on defense, they drafted 2 guys on the line. Unfortunately, no Derek Harmon, who's the number 1 draft pick, very good, but he's been hurt the last 2 games. He won't play in this game coming up. So, again, I think they've addressed some of the issues. But, again, the quarterback situation, again, they've had 2, I would say, great quarterbacks in 50 years. So, again, Mike Tomczak, Cordell Stewart, Bubby Brister, all these guys, again, not
shout out to Slash, man. I saw a clip roll up across my timeline the other day, and guys like that, I think about how would they do in this era. I think about that, and I was like, man, he was such a great athlete.
He was special.
But Mr. Ben, let me ask you this: when was the last time the Steelers won a playoff game?
2016.
So, and how much of a playoff appearance they went to since this playoff appearances?
Oh, probably. They've only missed the playoffs, I think, once or twice in that period.
Yeah.
So if that was any other coach in the NFL, they kept making the playoffs, but they did not win for nearly a decade, wouldn't people believe, okay, it's not like they're a bad coach, but to me, that's a clear sign, okay, maybe your voice is just, we need a new voice in the locker room.
That's the point. That's why I brought up Marvin Lewis, because Marvin Lewis had that team competitive every year. They made the playoffs almost every year. But it got to a point where they need a new voice. They get the coach in, they go to the Super Bowl a couple years later. So again, sometimes, it's not to say that they don't have the talent to win, but certainly, I think, Tomlin and Harbaugh. Yeah, I think for both of these guys, I think the time is running out on both of these guys. And so again, it's not any disrespect to Tomlin, but again, I think a new voice that could be there. Now, if he does stay with the, and again, I got a question, because again, as everyone's saying, he's a great defensive coordinator, but again, we saw for the last few seasons, even going back to 2017, they were the favorites to go to the Super Bowl in 2017. They lost in the opening round, the division round against Jacksonville. Jacksonville put 52 on them. So how is it you got a great defense in the playoffs, you give up 52 in that game? So there have been lapses throughout that even puts his defensive bona fides in the question. And the time when they were good, they had that they had a Hall of Fame coordinator who's in a Hall of Fame right now. There, his picks at these positions at OC and DC since then have been head scratchers, and he's putting guys in there who don't have a Terrell Austin. If he really wanted to go and get like a bona fide guy at either at OC or DC. And let these guys have the reins, but some of these guys, it's like you got to be the leading voice on the team. It's like Buddy Ryan and Mike Ditka. They got along for 1 year, and then it was over. I mean, if they would have stayed together, the Bears might have went to another Super Bowl, but they couldn't live together. So sometimes I think the egos of some of these coaches, sometimes it's like, will you let the guy be the star? But some of his picks at these positions. And I appreciate that he gives guys an opportunity, but
Tomlin's not picking the team. He's not picking the
he's picking his coordinators. The worst thing he did was he should have let Flores be the DC. If Brian Flores was still with the Steelers, you would be saying, that would have been the move to make.
But he can.
My thing is, Coach Perk, you've been about as lean, and I can pick on myself as we can be with Lamar Jackson and other players that we like. You being lenient on them, like you said. If you look at if this was
his responsibility, he chooses the coordinators, but it's still an effort of the coordinator to call
but
the
I'm
right
saying
plays.
You got Brian,
but it's on you, and you make the hire.
Brian.
If y'all want to look at it like that, okay, but.
He was a winning coach. He would have been
that same coordinator will go on to get a head coaching job. Makes no sense.
Look, I'm
No,
saying
not the way they're looking.
I gotta be fair. Like I said, I
I'm
love
just
Tom,
saying.
but I gotta be fair. His OC
He's the
and
head
DC
coach.
picks over the last
Yeah.
few
And
years
I
have
hate
been
that.
very
Yeah.
suspect, especially when you had a guy who's a great DC in your building and you let him go. You know, so
Well, the damage.
Who did he let go that was with the Steelers?
like I said, Brian Flores. They had Brian Flores. He
Oh
was
yeah,
on,
oh yeah, that's right, that's right. Oh yeah,
and he
no,
and
no,
he picked a
that's
guy
an
who was
excuse
like a
was if he
defensive
was
back
in the
coach to
building.
be the DC in Terrell Austin.
If he
But
was
you
in the
got Brian
building, he
Flores in the
definitely should
building.
have let him go.
But
No,
he was
he should have.
aspiring to be a head coach. What you talking about? He's a head coach.
No. But
He's
I mean,
not
let's keep it.
since. He hasn't gotten a head
We've
coaching
No,
had
I'm
job
not
after the
saying.
NFL
we've had
let him
that
be a
talk
head
about
coach.
him. He's not
Yeah, I
going to
don't know
basically
why
get
he
a head
left
coach because of the
Pittsburgh.
lawsuit.
Yeah, it must have been something going on because he left
Yeah,
Pittsburgh and went to
and
do the same job at
yeah,
a
And I
he's
think that
doing
could have
it.
been the thing too. I think some of these guys, it's like, look, if he's that good, then you could be looking at your replacement. And that's how some of these, just like with the quarterbacks and whatnot, coaches think the same way. I don't want to bring in a guy too good because that guy could be replacing me. So I think that can.
Mike McCarthy did deal with that. It was real uncomfortable with Dan Quinn. Whenever he lose 2 games, it was like, yeah, Dan Quinn could take over.
Yep.
He was
So
happy when Dan Quinn left, and
yeah.
then the defense went to shit, and then everything was, all the stuff happened. So you got to be, once again, be careful what you wish for. But I hear you. And my thing is, as much as I don't like the Steelers, I have all the respect in the world for Mike Tomlin, and it's like something's got to give. I think he should be given another year, not just because I don't want to go to like a team like the Giants, but just because he's earned that. But I think they're going to have to do aggressive things. They got out and they made the trade for George Pickens. They need to be aggressive and make a trade like that for a player. I know they did the Metcalf deal, but they have the other deals. They need to take it a step further and go get their quarterback.
Right.
And my thing is, if you don't want to go that route, I know you might want to cover your ears. But if you don't like the guys in the draft, maybe you go and you go get a guy. You pair a really good offensive coordinator with a Mac Jones, and or one of those other quarterbacks. Because as much as I hate to admit it, I liked him going into the draft, but I was worried about Sam Darnold. He's turning it around, but every now and again it's like Cinderella. He turns into that pumpkin because it turns into midnight. So you just got to be wary of that. But that's an option.
I was
They gotta look at
Tomlin.
it.
I'll get a young offensive coordinator, somebody
we
hungry, and just do it like that. Get a young guy.
I'm with you, Coach Bird.
Draft all
Get a young,
yeah. I mean, some needs to be done.
a young, innovative mind.
But listen, just to show my lack of bias. Just to show my lack of bias once again. Obviously, you got Hall of Fame balloting. Shout out to Hines Ward making the final cut for the Hall of Fame. I don't think it's a Hall of Famer. I just said it. Hines Ward is a dog, but
I'm with you.
He's in the Hall of the Very Good. He's got 1,000 receptions, 12,000 yards. Not a Hall of Famer, because if who was my man who played for the Panthers, little guy,
Steve Smith,
all those years.
Steve Smith.
If he's not in the Hall, then I don't think Hines
he's in the Hall of Fame.
So, and again,
Steve
I know that's sacrilege to Pittsburgh because everybody loves him. But I don't think he's Hall. But I will say this: who does shout out? This is the senior list of guys coming out. I wouldn't give a nod, and I'm not hating. All right, Kenny Anderson was good in the '80s. He was a product of the West Coast offense and whatnot. He did go to one Super Bowl, whatnot. If you want to put him in as a senior, okay. Roger Craig, I think probably should be a Hall of Famer. He's one of the first running backs to run and catch for 1,000 yards a season, and a guy who should have been in a long time ago. I'm sorry, L.C. Greenwood. Part of the original Steel Curtain with Joe Green. He should have been the Hall of Fame. By the time he retired, he was the all-time sack leader on the Steelers. He should have been a long time ago. So I hope that LC gets in this year. He's the last piece missing from that 70s team, and he deserves to be in the Hall of Fame. So I am all for him getting in. But Craig was pretty bad when he was a player too. I mean, you talk about LaDainian Tomlinson and some of these multiple players. He might have been the archetype of the catching, receiving running back back in the day. So I think Craig, he's got a strong case to make to get into the Hall of Fame. So I just want to say kudos to those guys. But we spend a good portion of the show certainly on the NFL. Let's move on to the college game a little bit. So I just want to talk about this a little bit. I mean, this has been getting around. So obviously Lane
Biggest
Kiffin
soap opera. The biggest soap
is
opera.
going to LSU, even though he's
I'll
got
take it.
Ole Miss ranked 7th in the rankings. So I'll just show that real quick. So you got the Ole Miss ranked 7th, but I guess there was just a lot of turmoil. A lot of teams were going. Actually, and I read in this article, Florida State was going after him. The athletic director at Florida State was going, and if he was able, he was willing to go all in on Kiffin and pay the $72 million because it was $54 million to their current coach, and they had to pay another $18 million to their to the assistant coaches. But he was willing to go in if he could have landed. But Kiffin, I don't think he was as up on the job. But you had a lot of schools that were going after him. Nevertheless, they're departing with him. He won't be coaching in, they're in the playoffs. He won't be coaching there. And from what I understand, he's supposed to be taking some of his offensive coaches with him. I know Bill Cowher was pretty upset about this, that here's a guy, you promised to be there for these players and whatnot, but you take, and again, it is a bigger job, no question. LSU versus Ole Miss, no question. But to do that to the players at this point in time, just kind of take the money and run. A lot of folks aren't happy with this move, but Lane has always been strategic in terms of where he goes, and obviously you don't have too many jobs as big as LSU. So, Shawnee, your thoughts on the LSU move? There's been a lot of traffic, obviously, getting Kelly out of there. Things were messy. The governor was getting involved in that. And so, so your thoughts on the Kiffin hiring, the effect on Ole Miss, and what does this do just college football in general? How do you think this affects this playoffs coming up? So start with Shawnee and we'll work our way up.
Well, I think Kiffin's basically on the same level as the last coach they had, Brian Kelly. I don't see him as far as that much higher on the coaching poll than Kelly. It's just Kelly was just not the favorite man in Baton Rouge anymore, so he had to go. And with Kiffin, so how he was saying it, okay, so you remember he kept waiting because also it was between LSU and Florida, but he wasn't communicating enough with Florida. Right before the Egg Bowl, reports came out. Florida said, "Man, we moving separate." So they ended talks with him right before the Egg Bowl, and what they were saying was Kiffin was trying to wait about the status of Alabama to see if they had a chance to go to the SEC title game. Because remember that game with Alabama and Auburn, it was close. It was very close. So they were like, okay, if Alabama lost, then ultimately A&M ended up losing.
Yeah,
Ole Miss would have had
if they lost,
they would have had a spot in the SEC. So he was trying to wait until then to make a decision or make an announcement. I think he already made a decision. Just make an announcement of accepting the LSU coaching job, because he wanted to coach his team in the SEC title game. And when he made the announcement, okay, he's gonna be he accepted the job for LSU. The AD was like, okay, because it was inevitable why the time that he potentially preparing with Ole Miss, he's now trying to encourage players or whatnot, come and be to LSU and all this. And I think some of them will ultimately do it anyway. But basically, AD wasn't feeling that. When Marty Smith started basically interviewed Kiffin right there on the airport, looked like damn near the runway almost. The Ole Miss AD was like he was disputing some of the things that Kiffin was saying. I'm not surprised that Kiffin moved on to LSU because he's shown he'll do this. I mean, everybody saw what he did. I mean, he was at USC. He got fired from USC, and then he went to the
on the runway.
Yeah, and then he went to the head coach rehab program in Alabama under Saban. So he was having success there, and I believe it was a job that was potential because he's always getting calls. He's always getting calls from decent programs, and there was one towards the playoff, I believe. He wasn't communicating frequently with Saban. Saban didn't know where he was at. He said, okay, man, you know what? You got too much on your plate. And that's when Saban let him go, like I think right before the playoffs, I believe. And then, of course, everybody know about Tennessee. He coming out saying he's not going nowhere. Lo and behold, he did. After he left, he went to Florida Atlantic from Alabama, then Tennessee, and then looked like he was bringing their program up.
No, he was with Tennessee after he got fired from the Raiders.
Yeah,
the first one. Yeah, it was the Raiders.
Yeah, I don't even consider his NFL stint. You know,
but what's the name said some very interesting things that have shown to be a trend with him. He's a liar. And he said anytime you leave him, he's going to leave in a deceitful manner, and it's going to leave in a bad way. And Al might have been an old man that wrote a letter to do it, but he was right about some things on that. But
I think he will ultimately have some sort of success, similar to what he did to Ole Miss, because there's potentially, I mean, LSU is a big program, but there may be a few. I mean, I guess you're looking at the UTs, the Alabamas, Ohio States and stuff now, the upper echelons. That's programs that may be considered bigger than LSU. But if there's a bigger program out there, and he's bringing LSU program up, and all of a sudden they start calling I would not be surprised if he'll leave to do the same thing he did to LSU that he did to Ole Miss. That's just him.
I was just about to make that point.
Where do you go from LSU? I guess we're talking Alabama.
Well, that's not LSU. LSU is already towards the top, but there's some programs like University of Texas. I mean, I'm talking about like these.
You think UT is bigger than LSU?
Oh, they're about the same. Hold on, every SEC team is top. Every SEC team,
since UT hasn't what 06 was their last.
Y'all thinking about it? Y'all thinking about him current? I'm talking about like as far as the program.
Program overall.
UT is up there. UT is up there. Alabama put themselves up there.
Texas, Alabama, Michigan.
Alabama's always been there. LSU. The thing about it is, in the recent last 25 years or so, since basically you got to earmark it from when Saban got there, that's when their program kind of changed. Honestly, if you look at it from a standpoint of just college level, FCS or FBS, in their own city, Southern has had a richer history as far as winning conference championships and dominance than LSU did. LSU, this really changed around, I want to say, that recruiting class that Saban had with Marcus Spears and all those guys that had when they won that first title. That's when the tide changed with that group. And that's when LSU became a national. But to me, the only job that I think he would leave because of the Saban influence to take on that challenge to coach at Bama, and to that is toxic. And they don't think I don't think DeBoer is going to be there for too long. The way it sounds, I've heard that DeBoer could leave and go to Penn State. No, it's bad. If you look at the history of it, look at the coaches that had left Bama and went somewhere else. Like Dennis Franchione went there and went to A&M. That's clearly a downgrade. He went there. That's a tough job, bro.
But when you're talking about recruiting the top 300 players, all of those schools, right? It's a tough job. Any school you get in the top 300, 500 players, it's a tough job. But any SEC school, I think what other Power 5 conference that's right there? I know the SEC. Their programs have always been top tier. It don't matter. They all may be a couple of $100,000 difference in their school program is what they have to offer. UK, they used to have, they was so fancy back in the 80s and 90s that they sports program, they Big Two basketball, football were sort of had their own little city outside the college. Now every school you see it. LSU is of course is a big time job, but going back to Lane Kiffin, right? Look how he can play. Look how he can play the coach's carousel. Look at him, what he's been doing, right? But they keep hiring him. They don't see nothing wrong with it. I saw the interview. He looked like he was looking to see if somebody was coming to knock him upside the head because he was like, "Look, man, I gotta go. I gotta get on this plane." Because that's what he called him at. But the fact that he can do that and leave the players, they need to start making the players have a damn portal. Damn it. If you sign a contract, you got to do 80% of your contract. and if you leave, you ain't getting no payout. You just go.
But see, that's the problem. They don't have a coaches union. They don't have a coaches union where you're bound to this contract.
Hold up, Dante. But the athletic directors at those schools can dictate that. They can dictate.
They can, but the way it's the Wild West, how long are you gonna have a job if you'll hold it to that type of standards that you're gonna hold the guy to the contract like this? The coach is gonna be like, I'm not taking the job. And so, but
it's always
so
new coaches. It's always coaches. And
it's always new coaches.
Football, but think about coaching football. You see it with Indiana. You may have years in between. It's only a few coaches that had a consistently 10, 11 year win season. We've seen coaches in recently, last 3 or 4 years, have a 10-1 season 1 year and then not even have a winning season or a top 25 season next 2 years. You see it with Indiana. They could just be a fluke this year, but he got a raise. He got a fat raise, one of the highest paid in the coaches. Now, next year, he can go 7-6. See?
Yeah.
Because now with the NIL, it's more parity. And that's what I like about it. It's not going to always be. LSU might go 500 next year. So
I don't know. I'll say this about him. Go ahead, Sean.
No, you go ahead. Cause mine just was about the UT, but you go ahead real quick.
So what I was gonna say about it is this, and it's been a lot of stuff. I don't know if you guys have heard about the comment where he went up to the guy and told him, "Man, you called me a hoe to my face." It was based off of his comment. A podcaster, one of the guys, a podcaster or one of the reporters, was basically saying like Kiffin, he was comparing them. He said, you can't turn a hoe into a housewife, and he was talking about Lane was always gonna go to the biggest job. That would. If Ole Miss, when LSU comes to Ole Miss, if they don't play Ludacris's, if they don't play that, the stadium, even though they probably gonna get beat by 50, if they don't play that just to after the drum, and if that's not college game day at the stadium there, I don't know what ESPN is doing. But Lane Kiffin, Ole Miss. Ole Miss is going to lose to LSU just because Lane Kiffin was able to get the players and turn Ole Miss. Let's be real about it historically. And as far as rooting for Texas, and hey, man, the SEC is cool. It's the best conference. But some of the big dogs hold up the conference. Ole Miss is a team that has latched on. And I don't know when the last time they played for a conference title. I don't know when the last time, you got to Google it. I don't know if it was Archie Manning, or whatever, but whoever it was, that's a team that hasn't been what the level of LSU is. LSU, from the geographical standpoint, you can ask Black Man, is more NFL players per capita than any other state. It's this small state, and they produce all those guys. You can look at the list of all the guys from Jamar Chase to CeeDee Lamb, all those receivers in that 150-something mile radius. He's going to be, and there's no other big school there in Louisiana that compete with. Texas at least has to compete with Texas, A&M. Even Big Bad Alabama has to compete with an Auburn, a Georgia, right there in its footprint. Nobody is near them to get recruits. So he's got the natural advantage, and I guess they don't have as many donors at Ole Miss. The $25 million a year for your NIL roster, it's a better job, but the coaching calendar is the big problem. We've got to change the coaching calendar where guys can just leave and leave teams. Go ahead.
But Dante, just in reference to the NIL, Mr. Bennett, earlier in the year, right? Wasn't something passed where all schools are getting the same amount of NIL? We spoke about that on the live a few months that everybody was capped at $25 million. We did.
Every school's not going to pay the $20 million. Everybody not going to pay up to the 25. Every school doesn't have the money to pay.
I'm saying as far as the NIL,
there's still going to be tiers to it. There's going to be levels.
But the top five, the Power Five, you said earlier in the year that they have a cap of $25 million for all programs. So a player's only going to get a couple million. And it's going to be, and they're gonna run the NIL deals through a clearinghouse. So basically, if you try to give this, defensive tackle that nobody knows, but he's an excellent player, you try to give him $3 million and be like, oh, this is for an NIL deal to come speak at the dealership. They're gonna look at that deal and be like, hey, he's actually worth this much. So now we're gonna get back to what I like, the brown paper bag season. Okay, your NIL is worth this much. Here goes a brown paper sack, like it's the 80s with the Southwest Conference and the SEC. Yep.
I love that stuff. I love that. That's what makes college football great. Especially, Cam, my boy Cam Newton gets a 200,000 to go to Auburn, and he was supposed to get 150 to go to Mississippi State. I love this stuff. So it's like I like the fact that hey, Lane Kiffin is good as much as I think he's an upgraded coach because he's a coach that more so fits the culture of LSU. You do realize he's never, besides as a head coach, he's never won a division title, and he's never won a division title, conference title, national title as a
Which
head
is
coach.
which is
So
to me
they're paying a lot of money for him.
that's the biggest enigma to me for a guy who doesn't have a stellar resume, no championships to speak for, but everyone's willing to roll out the red carpet, even to pay. Like I said, FSU was willing to pay $72 million
Yeah,
in buyouts just to get him. But I don't understand necessarily. Like he might be a great recruiter, but honestly, I don't understand. Why everyone's rolling out the red carpet for this guy, even to underhanded means, and the guy doesn't have necessarily anything to show for, not at the pro level, not at the
it's a
college
risk.
level. So I don't get where that comes from. But
It's
let's
a risk.
move on from him. Let's talk about it again. So we got the current top 25. And clearly, Ohio State is at the top. Indiana, certainly they have a chance to go with number one. But I don't know if that matters. I mean, obviously, these guys are going to get into the dance. For me, the question is, how likely is it that Ohio State is going to go back to back? And I'm trying to remember. I just off the top of my head, I can't remember a program that's won back to back. I mean, maybe go back to Florida with Tim Tebow. Didn't they win back to back championships?
No, that's the basketball.
So that might have been the last team that I recall off the top who's
Bama.
done that.
I think Bama's gone back to
That's
back.
possible. Yeah, that's possible. That's possible.
Or was it Georgia?
It might have been. Yeah, it might have been.
remember.
It might have been Georgia. But what do you think the prospects of these guys going back to back? They've been pretty much in front all year, and so likelihood that they're running back again. Coach, what are your thoughts on that?
Hey, really quick in reference to the, I guess for the championship, Ole Miss is now number 6 as far as the polls is for the BCS Bowl. So I can see Ohio State running it back though, but this game, Indiana ain't gonna be no pushover. Indiana's playing great ball, man, and so again, it's wide open, man, and I can see them run. If they beat Indiana, I can see them running it back. The other teams, they sort of have to play each other out, which can really take a toll. Georgia, any of those top 4, I think it was Ohio State, Indiana, Texas A&M, Georgia, and Alabama. I think any of those.
My apologies, guys. This actually looks a little bit old because Alabama should. I think they're currently ranked 9th at this point, 9th or 10th. So my apologies for having wrong this one prior to last week. So. My bad on that.
Yeah, and them dropped yesterday. Lost.
I can see any of those 5 winning it though, but I can see Ohio State running it back because they playing good ball.
Gotcha. Shawnee, your thoughts? Ohio going back to back?
If we're doing that, I still probably take the field if it's going back to back. That's a pretty hard task. I mean, they quite capable of it, but I still take the field. It really depends on the draw. After we'll see that Sunday evening.
Yeah, Sunday.
The final playoff
bracket. I think it's like it was last year. I think it's like they don't make us wait now. It's like the afternoon, I believe.
Yeah, the
show was last year.
They let it marinate a little bit. But I probably still take the field before I give them the back to back. But I was debating somebody online about. Cause I mean, especially since they stretched this playoff to 12 teams now, it's going to be. It's like usually like 6 teams, college teams that can really compete amongst each other, and then maybe out the other 6, one can maybe can beat them one game, and then it'll try to turn the tables the next game versus another elite team. But the biggest thing about people saying with this 12-team playoff, because you're going to have these teams that they have no reason to be on the field. They won't be able to compete. And one of them now is the game. I forgot when it's gonna happen. It may have to be Saturday. The what's that? American.
Yeah, the American Conference, the
That is going to
championship,
be
Tulane versus UNT, which is
yeah.
your grand prize is going to be kind of like when those teams play the 16 slot in the play-in tournament. It's like, hey, whoever wins this game gets to go get beat by 50. Good job, and maybe some
So
money for your conference.
so basically, just to put it in perspective, yeah, UNT is another school here in the DFW area, but they are. I mean, they the stepchild to the stepchild. Basically, SMU is representing Dallas, TCU is representing Fort Worth. Well, UNT is a smaller school, and it's up there in a town called Denton, about an hour above Fort Worth.
Yeah.
So they just a smaller school, but you can imagine what but they're not gonna. I can imagine what they will even host a playoff game, but they won't be. But how if that team can make it to the playoff, the atmosphere will be at that in that town, a small town. This is the highest they ever been in football.
Yeah.
They don't even have they never been in this territory before. But
Yeah.
that excitement, the fan base, and even DFW, like I say, they don't even think about pretty much UNT for the most part. But this season is the most I've been seeing UNT football being, spoken about amongst the media down here because they've been having a successful season. They almost went undefeated, but they lost to Central Florida.
Now let me ask you: is North Texas the same as North Texas, Texas State? Are those two different schools or the same school?
No, you talking about Texas?
It might have been their old name.
Yeah.
Yeah, because when you say North Texas, I'm kind of a little bit familiar with it because I'm a big wrestling fan, and it seems like a lot of pro wrestlers. Stone Cold Steve Austin played at North Texas.
That's the same school. Yes, they changed.
Same school. Tito Santana.
Yeah.
It was like they just one time I saw this picture and they had all these professional wrestlers all played for North Texas State, and I was like, man, what is the draw?
It probably was the old name because I think we still have, unless they change their name too, we still have a Texas State down in San Marcos, and North Texas is up in Denton.
Yeah.
And so maybe they used to call themselves North Texas State.
Yeah, and you mentioned Denton because I think the Von Erichs, I think they're from Denton, Texas, if I recall.
I think so. Wrestling
that whole wrestling fan. They were back in the 80s again. Since they were like the biggest thing in Texas or whatever. They were superstars and whatnot. That was when wrestling was really big in that area with the Von Erich family. I remember watching that stuff. World class championship wrestling in the 80s. That was like my guilty pleasure back in the day.
But I was bringing all that up just because the college football it brings excitement to schools that normally won't even be in that spotlight. Yes, they will know, unless lightning strikes the same exact spot 50 times for them to beat these teams. Yes, they know most likely UNT versus whatever team they're going to have to go against. It could be an A&M. They're gonna get blown off the field.
Right. But real quick, I wanted to ask you, Shawnee, about because we were talking about LSU and Texas, right? So again, Texas, 2006 was the last championship there. So what do you think then is the pressure then for them to win? I mean, they haven't really been on that level. I don't think they even reached a semifinal.
Okay. Yes.
Oh,
they made the semifinal the last 2 years. The last 2 years, obviously, they won't make it this year because they're not going to make the playoffs. But I will say this, Sark has turned the program around. LSU, basically, their last couple of head coaches have all won natties, except for Brian Kelly. So the pressure is there for Sarkisian, especially with the high profile of recruitment of Arch Manning and his development, and basically the preseason expectations versus what this season was. Like most teams, the 9-3 season is like, hey, Al, it wasn't as good as you wanted. But when you were at Texas and it was the way it was supposed to go, and everyone had bought in, it's a lot of pressure, and that's why you saw I know you saw the thing with Desmond Howard and the scuttlebutt about, oh, he's gonna leave, and don't be surprised if the job in Austin comes open, and he shares an agency with Sarkisian's agent, all under with CAA or whatever. So it's a big job to have, but it's also a lot of stuff because there's a lot of big money donors.
Right.
Hovering, floating around, throwing their money around. So it's tough to keep everybody happy.
Is why UT is probably the mainstream Because remember, they the only school that had their own network before they closed it for the SEC.
Yeah.
The biggest pressure is for their boosters. If anything, I don't know how any other team compare to as far as money.
That's why I'm not sure. Like I said, if you have a choice as a coach to go to LSU or Texas, I would think I'd want to go to LSU, but
you go to
LSU's a mess. LSU's a complete mess. The governor getting involved and all this.
I'm just saying historically, like over the past, like Shawnee's, it's almost like he putting Texas and LSU on the same level, and certainly, like you said, the last 20 years or so, they haven't been on.
Yeah, but y'all looking at them. Y'all looking at LSU recently. Texas has a history, and they have money.
20
so
years.
if you're a coach, if you're a coach of a big name coach, and you come, say if I don't want to say anybody will do that with Nick Saban, but if you're a big name coach and you come to UT, they will literally have the money for you. Just go do whatever the hell you want to do.
So why didn't they go after Lane? So especially if Lane is the big prospect. So why haven't they been able to secure
they at the time they cool with Sark. I mean, Sark has been
they got Sarkisian. He elevated, and when he got touched when he touched the hem of Saban's garment, that fixed everything that was wrong with him before. And just like with Lane Kiffin, because I want to say, Sark was the replacement for Lane when Lane left.
All I know is last year, Ohio State was almost willing to fire their coach because he lost to Michigan. That's how crazy it was at Ohio State to win.
And that's why you don't let fans run the team.
And I'm just saying, but I don't see that coming out of UT saying
because they've beaten their rivals. The last 2 years, they're three of their. Well, I don't really count Arkansas, but technically Arkansas is a rival. Arkansas is a rival. A&M's a rival. Oklahoma's a rival. Last 3 years, Sark has beat them. So it's just like you're safe in that point of beating your rival, especially the best thing you can do in a down year is beat your rival last game of the season, like they did with A&M. And if they hadn't lost to Florida, then you're talking about a playoff berth. But they didn't, so he can't lose those type of games.
Right,
and so I'm with you, Coach.
How many years do you give Sark without a championship?
5. He plays out his contract. If he's competing for the championship and the SEC championship every year, he's going to get to play out his contract. Because
that's the thing.
I'm with you, Coach. Yeah, boosters are big on those rivalry games, and at least make it to a bowl. You don't make it to a bowl 2 years in a row.
Like I said, I'm not saying they're not a top 10,
but Texas.
I don't know if they're top 5 though. That
not top 5
is debatable.
Texas,
yeah.
No,
it might be 6.
They're not good enough.
Yeah,
they top 10.
But I'm saying, they've been in that state for quite a number of years now. So I'm just saying that when is the pressure going to get to a point where when's the focus on the national championship versus beating your rivalry teams? But
I think they just have like that because they got the money. They damn have more money than anybody, so they can afford anybody. If you trying to get into a bidding war with them, you probably will lose. Yeah. And so that's why their program is up there. They just have the money.
We'll see. All right, last block of the night, guys. Switching to the NBA. So we were just talking about this last week, and Dante, you weren't here for this discussion. So we had this breakdown. Now, again, I don't think he's a first ballot Hall of Famer, but he is a Hall of Famer. And why he's not first ballot? Because, again, we talked about this list, and he's either 10 or 11 on this list. I'm not putting him above 6 through 10. I may go 11 because Westbrook hasn't been the same player for several years now. But certainly, we just heard the news yesterday. Last week said, reunited with Clippers. He's arguably the greatest player in Clippers history. Right? People might want to talk about Griffin or whatever, but again, 7 years with the Clippers in his first run, 6 all-star appearances in that run. He goes back. Now, he's not a big-time contributor on his team, but again, they fly into Atlanta a couple nights ago, and basically has a long conversation with the GM, who can be he's a little Napoleon over there, but he basically doesn't leave the team. So he gets released. Again, this is supposed to be the greatest player. I mean, obviously, when they open up their new arena or whatever, and they put in the rafters or whatever, he's probably his name, if he wants to even do it now, will go in the rafters. But even I would say that's not a way to treat a Hall of Famer, most likely a first ballot Hall of Famer. And apparently why he's being released is because he was very critical of the team. I think they're 5-16 at this point. They're not playing well. He tried to hold the players, the coaches, and even the front office accountable. And they were like, you got to go. So it also points to, especially even with players don't care about veteran leadership, nor do they care about a Hall of Fame resume unless you can help the immediate team in their efforts. If you're coming off the bench averaging 3 points, playing 15 minutes a night, they don't care about your accomplishments. They don't care that you were ahead of the Players Association. Again, for a lot of these players, again, that kind of holding players accountable thing, you better be LeBron or better. And so, look, they have to believe that you can win with you rather than not. Otherwise, your voice is going to be shouted at, just be drowned out. And then once he went after the front office, then it was like, nah, he's got to go. So again, Dante, I want to give you the floor to talk about. You say he's your favorite player or favorite point guard of all time.
He's my favorite point guard of this era. Yeah,
of this era. So your thoughts on his career. Do you think this might be it for him, or will another team pick him up again? I think he was averaging like 3 points a game or something like that. So again, like I said, I'm not saying he's putting up certainly not all-star numbers in this latter years, but just overall, if you want to reflect on his career and the decision by the Clippers, which I think again for a guy who announced that he's going out, you can't ride out the season with him. I just think that for your arguably the greatest player in your history, I don't think that's necessarily the best way to handle the situation. But your thoughts on him, and then we'll share it with the other guys.
Okay, I'll say first things first. On this list, I can understand you saying you feel like some of those other guys should be ahead of him. I can respect that. I'm sorry, I love Oscar Robertson, but for making it through the '80s, we need to put top 3 Isaiah Thomas. He was because my thing is of everybody on that list, being a small guard, point guard, and leading his team to championships in a tough era, had to go through those bird Celtics. So like that guy was Jordan, all of that. So I would just say that's first things first.
I don't mind that. I said, at all. Zeke was bad. Zeke was a bad boy. I mean,
Zeke was a bad. He was a man. Look, he was one of them that your pops tell you about, and I was like, "Man, are you sure he really is nice as you say?" And then I went and saw. I was like, "Oh no!" I said, "Oh, yeah, okay." I was like, "Yeah, you right." He was a baller, but Chris Paul, like I will say this, and they had to talk about him on Bill Mighty Jones' show. Is like, hey, he's efficiency, he was everything, he was all these different things. Sometimes when it came down to it breaking down in the playoffs, he could do the textbook stuff, but sometimes when it broke down, it wasn't always the best. And always being able to go and just get those buckets when you need it as a guy. But I would say efficiency, and my thing is, as a small guard, he's a guy that to me, when you say, oh man, he's too small, he can't play defense. Chris Paul did. Chris Paul was all defensive, and that's why I put him a notch up there over some other point guards like a Russell Westbrook, who I love as well in this era. But it's like he's over there, he blocked up.
Russ does have bad.
No MVPs. That's the thing about, and then the Russ MVP. That one got political. That's a short topic for another day. What I will say is, you want a point guard to raise the floor. Some of the point guards on this list, they definitely got on their team, raise the floor. And Chris Paul was a guy that absolutely did that. Respect to John Stockton, but when he had to run and mate. No matter where you sit Chris Paul, similar to Jason Kidd. I remember when he went to those bad Nets teams in the late 90s, 2000s, took them right to the finals. So that kind of got an impact to get the guys the basketball where they want it. Yes, Chris played in a tough conference, and sometimes he had some bad breaks. He ran up against a legend, and that's why he didn't get a championship. But the Clippers are on an all-time horrible run of decision-making. I'm sorry, Chris, guys, everybody's not LeBron. Everybody doesn't get that Kobe, that send-off. He played all 82 games last year and helped develop those guys over there with the Spurs. Maybe you should have just let it go after that point. Sometimes you got to know when to let go. But the Clippers, from the worst and worst from the Paul George trade to the worst and worst of the Kawhi Leonard, to now letting him go to the Aspire thing and the funneling money to Kawhi. All time terrible run from a terrible organization. And for all the talk that, hey, they showed up the Lakers and they ran LA, what the hell did they win when they quote unquote ran LA? Because the Lakers actually won a title. But terrible move for them as you're a superstar. Why the hell would you want to go to the other city in LA?
I heard that. Shawnee?
Yeah, the Clippers when they made the new arena that they're currently in, they were coming up and not in popularity because you can't the Clippers ain't gonna be popular than the Lakers, but just in basketball terms, they was coming up to be able to try to dethrone the Lakers and in LA as being the better basketball team in the city. And this, Lawrence Frank started making the moves to acquire, Leonard. Remember, he was the main one of the main ones responsible for trading Gilgeous Alexander, 4 draft picks for Paul George. So, and this was after the whole Chris Paul era, when it was him, Blake Griffin, that whole squad that I thought had a legit chance of winning the title. Lawrence Frank wasn't a part of that squad. That was the whole what's the Donald Sterling, and then they moved over to the current owner. But he's been there. Paul's been there for some key moments of history for the Clippers, and I think he was really one of the main ones responsible for bringing them up. Because the Clippers, they was a doormat. Sterling at the time, he didn't care about it. He found a way how to make money if I didn't put a good basketball team on the court, and that's just how he lived. And they was just a doormat. But when they brought Paul over from New Orleans after the whole Lakers trade got shut down, they brought him over, and it just went up from there. And now they're kind of going back down because now the latest signings that Frank has been a part of, it's not really panning out. But I heard with Paul, he and head coach Tyronn Lue, who's well respected around the league, he was on speaking terms with him no more, for a while. I said you can't really be on non-speaking terms to a head coach and just think they're just going to keep you on the team. Now, I agree, though. They could have, like what they do, because I remember when the Rockets did this with John Wall, when they basically just stay home. They was just trying to have a youth movement, but they just stay home. They was paying them to just stay home. But I think he was already in Houston. They didn't fly him out, They just say, once they came back to Houston and he was home, you just stay there. CP3, as you say, they was in Atlanta. And they just could not wait to come back to LA. This is supposed to be his last year. He wanted to retire as a Clipper.
Right.
I remember when they brought him in, he had an emotional press conference because the fans was, saying CP3 and all that. And he could have just at least brought the dude back to LA. Then they went up to the front office, worked out the numbers to buy out the rest of his contract. Hey, it is what it is. And then he could have left. I don't think the really issue is that you release Chris Paul. It's just the way they went about it.
Yeah.
So.
Because they could have waived them. I think the January deadline, January is when the deadline to waive, they could have waited till then. But again, I just think that just got very toxic very fast. And again, for an aging player to try to, challenge guys in meetings and things of that nature. And again, if you're not a major contributor, again, I don't think that respect goes like back in the day. So, Coach,
I say this one thing before Coach go. Remember, one of his stops before he came back to LA was OKC, and he did a good job of bringing them up. And I believe at the time they released Paul, Clippers did. I think Gilgeous Alexander did a social media post, almost entertaining the thought of, hey, if he don't know if it's possible, but if the front office want to some way bring back Paul to OKC, because he said he really would like to win a ring for CP3. I know CP3 wanted to retire a Clipper, but if it's just made this, you just go his veteran knowledge. Everybody can accept that. He's just CP3 is he's gonna call you out no matter who you are. But his knowledge, everybody respects that. His basketball knowledge. So if he's just gonna be on the end of the bench and just coaching up some of the young dudes on that team, yeah, I think it could be a good thing, and I think they can win for him.
Do you think coaching is in
Right
his
about that,
future?
Johnny.
Do you think he
Hold
could
on,
be
hold
a
on,
head
hold
coach?
on, hold time out.
All right,
Come
I'm sorry,
on,
Coach. I jumped in front of you. My bad. Go ahead, sir.
man. What are we doing, man? Time out. Listen, man. The Clippers, they in disarray anyway. They just let him go. I think somebody go pick him up. He can still be an asset. Maybe not as much playing time, but he can definitely help a young team. He's still one of the best
OKC.
point guards in the league. There's not too many point guards. That's Chris Paul. Now the scoring's down. His defense, it's always been suspect. He don't have the speed that he once had in offense. But, if I was him, I think the Clippers showed poor taste. That was a white boy, let's be real. They would have let him ride the season out on the bench. They let Haslett ride the bench 5 years in Miami. He should have been out of the league, but they at least gave him the respect to finish the season. And the fact that he wanted to come home, y'all pick him up, and then y'all release him after he makes his announcement. Come on, man. I mean, it's just poor taste to me. It's poor taste. And I don't see the Clippers really rebounding from this. I really don't. I really don't see them rebounding from it. I think they're going to fall apart even more. They'll probably win 30 games, if that, with Kawhi Leonard playing. But it's poor taste, man, to me. So,
Gotcha. We're getting ready. We're getting ready for our final thoughts. I just wanted to kind of repost something. We might have talked about this earlier in the blog. I think I might have forgot.
Yeah,
But
we did.
Okay, but just to reiterate, certainly for guys who didn't see it, certainly as you came in tonight, if I could share my screen real quick. So again, that Dallas game, Cowboys and Chiefs.
Oh, I know what you're talking about.
Yeah. So again, this is the most viewed game in NFL history. Beat the last mark by 36%. So peak viewership at 61.3 million viewers. So again, obviously you got one of the greats in the game. It's Thanksgiving, so all those dominoes came to play. So for everyone talking about network television, is it kind of going away or whatever? No, people still tune in, whether it be on Netflix or some other streaming platform or whatnot. But certainly for the networks to have this kind of number, you don't get this until kind of Super Bowl type of numbers. So again, just just wanted to acknowledge that that showing, and certainly, like I said, they broke records there. But again, we're getting ready for final thoughts. I'll certainly lead this off, and Dante, if you're still there, I want you to come back because I did want you to comment on again. Not a legendary player, but we talk about health and we talk about just longevity in this world. And unfortunately, we lost a guy, wasn't a superstar, but certainly a notable name in NBA history. Eldon Campbell, former Laker, 57 years old, and again, just another event where we're losing brothers in our 50s. We don't know the cause of death or whatever, but this was certainly a sudden thing. So I don't know if Dante, since he played for the world, I don't know if he's at this point like a role player for the Lakers, but any comments that you may have on Eldon when he was on the Lakers, I'll turn it to you if you have any other thing to say about it.
Only thing I say, I was surprised. Because I was like, man, he played in like the 90s and 2000s. I was just like, that's pretty young, to pass away. So I'm with you. I don't know the cause, but my condolences to his family. It's really young, and I would say I've definitely heard this about the big men in the NBA about having. I don't want to say this was it, but I've heard this that about congestive heart failure and different things when they're bigger bodies, taller guys. I've heard about these things. So I'm hoping that, this will cause an awareness, even though it should have been where the older guys that have, stayed and spent in the league, there's enough money that's come through the league to get these guys to health plans, just like the NFL gets with the linemen and has them lose weight after they're done playing. So it's easier in their joints so they can live a longer life. Hopefully something like that will happen with the big men of the NBA, because that's truly sad to see that.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. Shawnee, any final thoughts on your end?
Come back to me.
Okay.
I
Coach.
forgot to give this real quick.
Oh, yeah.
SWAC championship game on Saturday. We're playing against Jackson State. It's gonna be an uphill battle. They're ranked in the FCS. Tough battle, but I think we're coming out with the dub. Let's go BVU.
Nice. Well, certainly, definitely, if they do pull it out, definitely hype it up on the next show. We'll certainly give us a spot today. And so, Shawnee, you went to an HBCU also?
I went to PV.
All right. So listen, guys. If you guys at any time, if you guys want to have a block to illustrate or highlight HBCU football or anything that's going on of hype or whatever, feel free to certainly bring it up as a segment.
We'll do.
Absolutely. But Coach, you want to give your final thoughts?
Mute,
sir.
Just go thank Dante. My wife graduated from Jackson State, so I know she swagged down to the T. Just real quick, man. My high school alma mater made it to the Final Four this past weekend. They lost in the Final Four. They had, they went out to the county, but first 10-2 season shoots ever. But they doing some big things over there, man. So salute to them, man. And listen, man, this is football, man. This is football. Didn't nobody have nothing to do on Thanksgiving when nobody traveling? Everybody was, scared of the economy. But just real quick on health, man. Listen, man. The fact that, again, man, I'm in my 50s, brother been in his 50s, man, and we losing brothers, man, relatively young ages to me, man. Man, y'all make sure y'all get checked out, man. Make sure y'all check on your buddies, man, who may be down in a rut. Make sure that their mental state is just as active as everything else, man, that they can talk about some of those things and give them real solutions too. Try to give them a real solution, man. And if you don't know that, also say, man, listen, I don't know. Let's find out together, because, the fact that, other stressors and our health, man, we got to be serious about it, especially in 2025 going into 2026. We all got responsibilities, man, and I'd rather see y'all Shawnee, you right there, you pepper spray beard. Dante, you still got that little boy beard and things like that, but I want to see y'all old and ugly like me too. That means y'all still living and y'all got, what I'm saying, you got a purpose, man. So yeah, man, salute to y'all brothers, man. All you brothers in the chat, so many of y'all today, man. All y'all go to the doctor before the end of the year and tell them check your blood, your urine, everything, man, because we all need to be here, man. So salute to y'all, man.
That's what's up. Shawnee, your last word.
Yeah, we were talking about PV and HBCUs. Not really sport related, but just wanted to shout out Dante. I'm pretty sure he probably knows, familiar with it. I just want to give a shout out to Jeff Bezos, his ex-wife, Miss Mackenzie Scott. So we had COVID, and I don't know if y'all remember during like the beginning of COVID, she made these donations to several HBCUs.
Yeah.
And at the time, I think Preview, she, for whatever reason, I don't really know why, Preview got the biggest donation amount from her. At the time, $50 million. And this was like in, 2021, maybe 22, somewhere around there. Fast forward to like this past summer or early fall or whatnot, and hit on Miss Scott's heart again to send a donation to Prairie View amongst some
63 million.
Was it 63 or 65?
It might have been 65. I'm not sure, but we appreciate
so
it.
basically within a 5-year period, she donated between 113 and 115 million to PV alone. So I was like, man, I don't care I know it's an HBCU, but I don't know when the last time. I think I've been to campus maybe 5 years ago. I want next time I go to that campus, I want to see a Scott Boulevard, a building named after her. And hell, we don't really have statues up there on the campus. We have these plaques. We have
Yeah.
plaques all throughout this campus. Hell, build her a plaque too. So, cause I don't, these like the 50 million was the largest donation that the school has ever received. Then she topped it off. So let me give you an extra 15 million. Now she got to 65. I was like, man, I don't know why her reasoning is for this. Cause like she's been doing it to other HBCUs as well. But hey, we are definitely from alumni from that school, man. We are definitely appreciative and thankful that she's doing it. It's definitely helping out the current students. I believe PV's been using it for scholarships and upgrading residential halls. It's just pure, just around the campus, educational. You know, they try to use this money wisely. And the fact that she gave 50 million plus twice to the school, oh yeah, big shout out to her.
Well, to
Big
me,
props.
for me, that's the biggest takeaway. Like you said, the school's using it wisely because unfortunately, in the last
Oh
few
yeah,
years, you've had a
yeah.
lot of these HBCUs, money scandals and whatnot, and money just disappearing, going to certain people. So the fact that they're putting the school first, that to me is as big as the contribution itself. It's not so much how much you have, it's what you do with what you have. And the fact that they're using it wisely, shout out to the administration at HBCU, at Prairie View, that they got some good leadership, which all these HBCUs need, because I didn't like hearing a lot of these stories over the past 5-10 years of schools, just, dorms got mold in them and just all kinds of things going on. So finally we got getting the right people in these places so that these HBCUs can, be attractive places, because especially with affirmative action, we're not going, and these schools are going to be more important than ever. So we need to make these places attractive.
I
So
don't know if
people,
y'all ever been to a Preview campus, but it's a beautiful campus. It's a
Beautiful campus.
For sure. And again, Anton gets the last word. Shout out to Tennessee State, the first HBCU to have a varsity ice hockey team.
Hey.
So there you go. But we want to thank you guys again. I think this might have been a record-breaking show. I think we might have topped 70 simultaneous views tonight. We really thank you guys for being part of this conversation tonight. Certainly tune in next week as we go into this again. So certainly make sure you hit the like button, certainly as you leave the show, but certainly for myself, Mr. Bennett, for the coach in the building, for Shawnee and Dante. This is the One-on-One Sports Show here on the Black Men Unfiltered Network. You guys take care. God bless. And we will see you next time. Good night.